Welcome back, tribe. I have an interesting one for us today. Apparently, women are going their own way too. It says a Pew Research study shows that a majority of single women in America are not on the dating market. They're not looking for marriage, they're not looking for a committed relationship, and they're not looking for casual sex. They're just not interested. Women going their own way, huh? All right, well, before we get into the study, let's see what women are responding with in the comments. This whole thread makes me feel so much better. I thought I was going crazy, not wanting to date at all, at almost 28, but clearly this is not just a me thing. I'm glad to see so many other women feel exactly the same way. Boy, if this is not an echo of MGTOW, I don't know what. I'm 29 and I feel no need to date. It's everyone else in my life going, oh, why don't you go out, put yourself out there and date? You need a boyfriend. It's like my life, I like my life as it is. Most of the couples in my family are unhappily married. Why should I compromise my happiness? Sheesh. Look at this delusional one right here. I'm happy. What in the world? I'm happy to hear I'm not the only one. I'm 50 years old. Divorced for 10 years, alone for 20 of those years. Dating is way too much effort for such little return. Casual sex would be nice, but they pump 3 times and they're done. I have more fun by myself. I can clearly see myself being single and alone for the rest of my life. It's not by choice, lady. Nobody wants you. And here's why. I'll never date again because I'm not taking care of another person. And they would just end up effing me over anyways. I've never been with a man who loved me. I spend all of my time and energy on my 2 teenage daughters. And it's nice to show them you can lead a perfectly nice life without a man. That just smells of desperation. Sorry, but you're 50 years old, you were divorced for 10 and alone for 20. So that means you were what? 10 years in your marriage, you felt alone and your man didn't want anything to do with you. I don't know what the, stipulations of that relationship were, but you are old, a divorcee, and you had 2 kids, and you're saying dating is too much effort for such little in return. No, your market value is down in the dumpsters. Nobody wants to date you. You've been used up. You're already another man's. You got kids. And you're probably looking for your husband when you first met him. You want those kinds of men. You want a man that's better than what you can pull. And now you're having trouble. And now you sold it to yourself as it's just too much problems. Oh, they're probably bad in bed anyways. Oh, but it'd be nice to have casual sex, right? The dissonance. I'd rather watch my 2 daughters than spend time with a man. Oh, dating's so hard. Why don't men want to hang out with me? I mean, it's a lot of women have this sort of mentality, this delusion that they can still pull the kind of men they used to when they were 20 years old. You've been passed up, sweetheart. Your time has gone. You have no choice but loneliness. There is nothing else for you. And it's unfortunate. Find a man way below on your level that already has kids, that wants to put up with a 50-year-old woman. The men at 50 at your age bracket are smashing 25-year-old dimes, especially that they took care of themselves and have money to burn and have fun. The other half, probably already married, divorced, and went their own way, just like this article is about to tell us. They are not dealing with women anymore. So what are you left with? The bottom of the barrel. Men that you would never consider anyways. So yes, dating for you is damn near impossible. And here we go. I've tried dating recently and this survey results ring so true, especially just the lack of quality men. It's very hard to find someone who isn't a complete loser. You see what I mean? I haven't read this far down. I'm nailing it. A douchebag, above my pay grade, or just a good person who listens. The bar is on the floor and it's still hard. No, the bar is way up there. You're holding it up there. It's just you can't compete with the women half your age. Gynocentrism has made it so that sexual empowerment, women are handing it out like candy. It doesn't take a ring anymore to get it. Let's get into the article now. Nearly half of US adults say dating has gotten harder for most people in the last 10 years. Boy, is that a quick time frame, eh? 10 years. A majority of women say they've experienced harassing behavior from someone they went on a date with. Interesting. As most Americans turn to online dating, and that movement, don't want to say that, leaves its imprint on the dating scene. Nearly half of the US adults and a majority of women say that dating has become harder in the last 10 years. And these graphs do not look well at all. It says percent of daters saying that overall things in their dating life are going 67% not at all well. Only 33% are saying very or fairly well. The other one says percent of daters saying they have found it very or somewhat difficult, 75%, to find people to date in the past year. Oof, 75% are finding it difficult. Yes, we no longer abide by the traditional gender roles and norms that used to make it much simpler and much easier for us to find a good partner. Now with the gynocentrism that's exploded in the last 30, 40 years and the so-called empowered queens all over the streets, of course, male spaces have been taken away. Masculinity has begun to evaporate. Men are not men anymore. Women are not women anymore. Oh my God, it's hard to date. It's hard to find another person to settle down with for the rest of your life. Shocker to absolutely nobody. Among those who are on the dating market, the 15% of American adults who are single and looking for a committed relationship or casual dates, most say they are dissatisfied with their dating lives, and that it has been difficult to find people to date, according to a Pew Research study conducted in 2019. When single and looking men and women report equal levels of dissatisfaction with their dating lives and the ease of finding people to date, women are more likely to say they have had some particularly negative experiences. Most women who are currently single and looking to date, 65%, say they have experienced at least one of 6 harassing behaviors asked about in the survey from someone they were dating or had been on a date with, such as being touched in a way that made them feel uncomfortable or rumors being spread about their sexual history. This compares with 50% of men who are single and looking. The pattern holds when looking at all women and men, whether they're currently on the dating market or not. Except we are not talking about the 80-20 rule where most of these women that are on the dating market are literally cycling through the top 20% of the same men. So most of those men that are single and looking are not even getting any action at all. And most of the women are getting pumped and dumped. Of course, they're dissatisfied. Of course, these guys are sexually aggressive in their behavior and pursuing women freely because they have 10 million options. So they're going to go for it. And if she gives any kind of negative reaction, which is what they're describing here, the guy's going to bolt by, oh, you're not putting out on the first night? Later, there's 10 other women that want to. So they treat him like a piece of meat. That's the carousel for high value men. Women are also more likely to see risk, both physical and emotional, when it comes to dating. When those who say dating has become harder for most people in the last 10 years are asked to describe in their own words why they think this is the case, women are twice as likely as men to cite increased risk. For their part, men are more likely than women to say technology is a reason dating has gotten harder. Overall, 47% of Americans say dating is now harder than when it was 10 years ago, while 19% say it's easier, and 33% say it's about the same. And I guarantee you, if you rate people based on attractiveness, the ones who say it's gotten harder, easier, and about the same, you can accurately pinpoint how attractive they are. Obviously, if you're very attractive, it's gotten way easier for you to date. The power of dating apps. When Tinder hit the scene, everything changed. Okay, if it's about the same, you probably fall about in the middle of attractiveness. Not much has changed for you. You still have the same options you did before. And if it's gotten harder for you to date, that's because you're probably in the bottom of attractiveness level. You have to remember that 80% of men are essentially invisible to women. So when I say things like average attraction, I'm saying like you're at the bottom of the top 20% of men. And then those men that are, in the top, those have gotten easy access to every single woman ever. Singles who are looking for a relationship are generally open to dating people with many different traits from a variety of backgrounds. For example, large majority say they would consider a relationship with someone of a different religion or different race or ethnicity than them. Most say they would seriously date someone who makes significantly more or significantly less money than them. When it comes to being in a relationship, by the way, that's a complete lie. If you're asking men that, yes, men can loosen their requirements easily, and I don't care what religion she is, don't care how much she makes, blah, blah. None of that matters to a man. But to women, we already know about hypergamy. If she's well-educated, making a lot of money, she's going to only want a man in her position or better that she can look up to. This is absolute horseshit for this article to say that. When they say most are seriously willing to compromise, it's the majority of men, and almost no women will compromise. Look at this ridiculous graph up here too. long distance relationships, debt, and voting for Donald Trump. Top list of relationship deal breakers, boys. If you are a Donnie fan, you ain't getting it. Oh my God. And it says percent saying they would not ever consider being in a committed relationship with someone who, wow, lives far away. Would not. 51%. Of course. Yeah, if you voted for Donnie, you're about 50-50, guys. If you got a ton of debt, 50-50. Long distance relationships, 50-50. Is raising children from another relationship, is 10 years older than them, this is the funniest one of them all, is a Democrat. If you are a Democrat, you would not consider being in a relationship. 11%. So a vast majority of people prefer the liberal ideology for relationships, and they wonder why, when tradition has evaporated, why is the dating scene so messed up? Why can't we find somebody we love? Oh my God, I'd rather be alone, go my own way. The women are now screaming because they're dating blue-pilled men. Most of them happen to be Democrats. That may be a reach. I don't care. Most men say it's harder for men to know how to behave on dates in the era of this movement right here. I'm just going to highlight it for you guys. It's a to and a move. You already know the one I'm talking about. Believe all women. All right. A majority of the overall public, 65%, says the increased focus on harassment and assault in the last few years has made it harder for men to know how to interact with someone they're on a date with. Listen, and they have the graphs here. I'll let you look at it while I talk, but we know the risk for men misbehaving in public, misbehaving in a private place, inviting her over. You don't know what's okay anymore, how to approach a woman properly, because she's literally one accusation away from ending your damn life. Dude, the amount of confusing information young men get today from gynocentrism on how to approach a woman, how to deal with women, what you should say, what a good little boy you gotta be, is the complete opposite of what men used to be taught and what women actually look for. Women want strong men. Women don't want a man that doesn't know how to carry himself, that has a weird, weak, creepy attitude about him. It creeps her out. You're told you can't approach women in an overt way. You're told traditional masculinity is actually toxic. You're told everything that is known traditionally as being a man and a real man is completely evil in society today. And now you have to approach a woman essentially like a woman, or don't even approach her at all. It's gotten so bad. Men are so, and I'm not even going to use the word scared, but risk averse to approach women, that we're noticing articles saying that women have to be the ones now approaching men. And it has to be that way in some cases, because if you're a man and you don't have, say, high status, high value, a ton of money, whatever, Chad looks, you're just a normal dude and you don't want to put in the work for the risk, right? And a woman approaches you, if that happens. I know it's rare. If a woman approaches you, it's like the only way to guard yourself, because she has to show interest first. Because if she doesn't, it's in some sort of way coercion, and it can be used against you. It's absolutely nuts, dude. If you don't have the suave, slick tongue to get a girl under your spell wrapped around your finger, if you don't have insane charisma, make women laugh, if you don't have these insane attributes that make women like magnetized to you in some way, aside from, money and material status, then dude, you are playing potentially with fire depending on where you live. And it could all get turned on its head depending on what you say and what you do. A touch here, a word there, she's offended. That's your ass now. It's a very real possibility for a lot of the young guys today. Older men dealing with older women don't subscribe to a lot of these newer ideologies, although still a risk. But for the youngest among us these days, with traditional gender norms being destroyed, oh my God, I don't know how you youngins do it. And then I'll scroll a long ass article. I'll scroll through some of this other stuff. Premarital sex is largely seen as acceptable, but most view sex on a first date and open relationships as taboo. That is not my personal experience when I was in the dating scene, especially on college campuses, especially if you were good at getting women. Taboo. This is taboo maybe for what? The more conservative part of society. But I'm telling you, go on a liberal campus, That's not taboo at all. As far as open relationships go, hit or miss depending on the person. But I'm telling you, sex on the first date, there's no rules for chats. Sorry. That's the cold, hard truth. She'll put rules on everybody else. Vast majority say that breaking up through technology is mostly unacceptable, and few say they would ghost somebody. Although we hear all the time about women and the so-called assholes they dated that pump and dump them and then ghost them the next day, will probably just say, hey, no longer interested over text. And the dude's got like 10 other women lined up. That's mostly who's complaining about the ghosting. Single people overall report that they don't feel much pressure from society and the people they know to find a partner. Single women and men give different reasons for difficulty finding people to date. Yes, the one for women is obvious. Their standards are astronomical and that man does not exist. And if he does, you're gonna have to share him, along with all the other women in your community that are vying for him. Not a surprise. Roughly 1 in 10 partnered adults met their partners online, but this is far more common among some groups. Who is it more common? Ages 18 to 29, 21%. I think these numbers are far, far higher than reported, especially post-pandemic. This was before. This is a 2019 article. I know the lockdowns have exploded. So it says 21% of these 18 to 29s found online strictly. 31% of that was women, 31% of that was through friends or family, your social net, 13% through work, 25% through school. So essentially, school or online makes up the majority. And again, these are old numbers, so it's only increased for online. I'm not surprised. Half of single adults and a majority of single women are not on the dating market. Here we go. So this is what I want to know. Fully half of single adults say they're not currently looking for a relationship or dates. Among those who are on the dating market, about half are open to either a committed relationship or casual dates. Single men are far more likely than single women to be looking for a relationship or dates, 61 versus 38%. This gender gap is especially apparent among older singles. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Older women have much harder times going on dates than men. So they're not looking because it's not like it was when you were 20 and men were falling over themselves just to get at you. Now you're whistling in the wind. Nobody's answering your door. Nobody cares. Of course you're going to give up, especially when you have the painful memories of how easy and how much men were willing to give you when you were in your prime. And now you are the one that has to work your ass off, give it away for free from the get-go, even to get a man's attention. At that point, you just say, hey, it ain't even worth it anymore. So, of course, women are going to be less likely. So here's where MGTOW, and then I guess a proportion of that, women going their own way also. It says, among singles who are not looking to date, having more important priorities right now, and just enjoying the single life are among the most common reasons cited. Non-daters younger than age 50 are particularly likely to say they have more important priorities at the moment, boys. I am proud of you because we know the vast majority of the singles that are saying this are men. Because at a proportion of who is this single percentage, it's mostly men. But of that are women, they're also going their own way and finding, dating unsavory today. Which is fine. I mean, both genders are having trouble dating today because we've lost our sense of gender norms and traditions. And nobody knows what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. Societal expectations have changed. And along that line, relationships have suffered. I mean, good luck pairing up with somebody for life today when you could be so easily replaced. I mean, men and women have this trouble. Some unique differences exist, like women chasing up after men that are unattainable and having insane standards, essentially pigeonholing themselves into a life of unhappiness. And on top of that, men suffering from global competition, essentially, where women have this access to all these men and you're relegated to the, quote, 80% that doesn't exist. And you may very well be a fine man to be married to, and you make good money, but the woman you're after is still plugged into the system and a slave to materialism, into the lifestyle and consumerism that she's essentially glued to on her phone. You have to find women that are traditionally minded, unplugged from the BS, don't care for social media, and are not slaves to the corporate thinking. In the West, unfortunately, this is what we're churning out as broken people that don't find any value in their sense of self. Their esteem is tied to material things. Men and women, guys, we're in trouble. This isn't just like modern women. Is this because there are a ton of women that are going their own way too. And I'm assuming that's going to start growing. And I don't know what percentage of these women there are in relation to all women total, but it'll be a growing number of them just as much. And MGTOW for men has exploded not only from this gender norm being broken. Of course, the main issue was marriage. It started off as men being over the system because of the laws were broken. And marriage is not worth it currently in the West. But now it's including a broader range of men that just don't want to deal with the risks of, cohabitating with women and being legally responsible. Support court ripping you, but not seeing women as worthy, period. To be somebody you share the rest of your life with and depend on to help you raise your offspring. It's too much of a gamble financially, and men are either presented with options of either going somewhere else and finding a traditional wife outside of the West, and living solo happily. We've seen from the studies that men can be happy and often are single, and it's not a problem. On the other hand, women can't be. It's just built into them. They have a strong propensity for children, which then requires them to have a man, whether they want to or not, for provisioning, to feel safer, to feel less anxious, right? She wants a complete, cohesive family. Men do too, but there's a strong pull in women. And now this is what we're left with. And for some men, the juice is not worth the squeeze if you don't have all the attributes needed to maintain a happy relationship with a woman today, quote, a modern woman whose insane standards can never be met. It's crazy how quick we're devolving relationship-wise. I think the vast majority of the people will be single, and women will continue to be pulled unhappier and unhappier as the decades roll on by. I think men will start becoming happier and happier, and the option of leaving the country and finding a traditional family for a man is becoming more and more accepted amongst young men, and they're probably going to start planning for that becoming the norm. I guarantee it. We're going to see wisdom being doled down to the young men today that just say, hey, focus on yourself, build up your own business, do something that allows you to detach from the West, from the town you're living in, from the company you're working for, etc., and go overseas and leave. I'm curious if this ever reaches some sort of critical mass that it's financially affecting the system, all these young men withdrawing. Will we see something akin to like a bachelor tax? Because I don't see society and gynocentrism pushing for a repair of the nuclear family. If anything, we're not going to incentivize it, but punish men instead. And what's the easiest punishment as well? A bachelor tax, which we have in some form or another. When you get married, you get a sort of reprieve on your taxes, but we don't have something specifically targeting men, which is a bachelor tax, which I've seen rumblings of, but who knows? Again, it has to become a financial pain for the system. And then, and only then, will the MGTOW movement get taken seriously. Right now, it's just a quiet wave that's rolling on through society slowly. But as it gains steam, we're going to see government take notice. And then it'll be interesting to see what happens. Until next time, men, see you on the next one. Join our Discord, become a part of the community, and take up the Spartan Challenge. We're waiting for you. More details in the links below.